Hi, I'm Amy Shannon from Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast, where stories speak, voices matter, and words come alive. If you are following this on Spotify, please follow the podcast. Um, Now, the interviewees uh, have the option of having an audio only podcast session or a video podcast session. This is a video podcast session, and I hope that you enjoy it. It will also be shown on YouTube. So if you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. Thank you. The Views Podcast, conversations, revelations, and inspirations behind the book. You never know where the conversation will lead us, so let's find out. Tonight we have a guest with us. Thank you for joining us. Will you please introduce yourself and let people know how they can contact you?
Hello, I'm Malory. You can get hold of me on X, on Facebook, on Instagram. Malory Author is my username on all of the social media.
I'll have that in the description of this episode so
Thank you.
people can find you. So you have you're here to talk about the book that you wrote.
Yes.
How many books have you written?
So this is the first book that I've written for children specifically. I have written quite a few more violent sci-fi things that would not be appropriate for my child to read, and he's always been going on about wanting to read something that I put together. So I thought I'd like to write him something that he could actually take to bed at night and read over. So that's where this one came from.
That is wonderful. When my boys were young, that's what I did. I only wrote stories just for them, and they love it. And recently I've changed genres, so I'm writing and publishing children's books as well as nonfiction historicals. So I think it's a very, yes, we write, especially when, we're writers. We tell stories to our children, we make them up, but they love being like a part of it. So
Yeah.
I used to make my boys characters in their stories, and they loved it. Um, so I can just imagine how exciting it is to publish your book and then have your child read it. And I also do believe that I think that adults should read more children's books as well. They really should. It's, it might bring them back to something that they forgot, because children see the world in a way that adults don't.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we don't realize how much children actually know or what they're absorbing. So I think, reading children's books kind of brings you back to understanding why we read to our kids in the first place.
Yeah.
And also, it can help promote literacy. If you read a children's book, and you have trouble reading, it might be able to help you. So those are two of my big causes:
Well,
literacy.
it's
And
huge,
reading.
isn't it? I think children that aren't read to become adults that don't read. I think it's as
Yeah,
straightforward as that, isn't it? Because it's such a personal moment in the family, isn't it? Where you sit and you read together. But if you
exactly.
don't have access to that, why would you replicate that later on? So
I
I think
know,
it's absolutely crucial that children are read to and have books they want to read as well.
exactly. And know that they can read.
Yeah.
I had a great uncle, and when I was a kid, I was about 7 or 8. My mom had he was coming over to visit. My mom told me, because I used to like having my family members read me a book,
Yeah.
when they came over to visit. And she said, "You can't ask Uncle Ray that." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because he doesn't know how to read." And
Goodness.
I'm like, "He doesn't know how to read?"
Yeah.
She's like, "No, he can't even write his own name." And that just kind of stuck with me. And I'm like, how do you get, you know, how does that work? I mean, how do you drive? How do you, you know, not read? But he was from a time where other things were more important, like working on a farm or something. So I think it's very important. I still can't grasp even uh, kids graduating high school, and they are their reading is so poor,
Yeah.
and or they can barely read. And how did you pass your English classes? I think some people just kind of push them out of the way, but hopefully they don't do that anymore. My boys are in their late 20s now, so I'm good. And they, they're not into like reading. They like gaming and stuff like
Yeah.
that and doing work. But when I write something, especially when I started writing my kids' books, they loved me to read to them, even though they were adults. I'm
Yes.
like, you can read this. They're like, no, you read it to us. So
That's why audiobooks are so popular, isn't it? Is because we do love being read to. It's
exactly.
that's a great joy, isn't it? Just to have nothing else to do but listen is a fantastic experience.
Oh, I know. It's just, when somebody, it brings you back to that time where, you were cuddled up with your mom or dad on your bed and they
Yeah.
would read you a story and they try to skip pages so that you'd go to sleep faster. But yeah, I just, I enjoy it. So tell me a little bit more about this book. So you've written before, you wrote this book, so your child has something to read. Do you believe that you will be writing more?
Yes, I
Yeah.
think so. It's I've been very fortunate really that Rack Press are really doing a push on books, particularly for boys, and really looking for things that engage sort of an area that isn't necessarily fulfilled very well by young adult fiction anymore. And my little boy is just about to turn 9, and what there is as young adults actually quite scary. It's some of the themes in there are far older than I really would like a 9-year-old to be
Yeah,
engaging with, really. But if you go much younger, they're quite. I mean, he's got a very strong sense of what's babyish, and
right.
I think
Yeah,
unfortunately, there's the books that feel like I wouldn't mind him reading those. He now thinks are too babyish, and the ones that I think he can feel that are probably aimed at him have some themes and some areas within them that I really don't think anybody would want a 9-year-old to be reading. So I really like that. I think that the Rack Press have gone for that very old-fashioned sort of story, really, and that's what this is really. It's called it's the Weird Map in Mr. Glim's Skull is the title, and it's a very very old-fashioned boys' adventure, really. So the idea of it is that you've got two friends who go to a school in England, which is obviously where I'm from, and strange things are happening. And right near the start of the book, Felix, who's the main character, who's quite clearly my son. I mean, there is no doubt this is my son. He's very clear it's him as well. But he's playing around with a radio that he's been building and designing, and he starts to hear voices through it. And the caretaker of the school, Mr. Glim, finds him doing that and warns him to avoid messing with the voices and messing with with what he can hear coming through. And then the bit that I'm going to read is later on that evening, later on the next day, after the caretaker's strangely gone missing, and William and Felix break into the school to try to see what has happened, because they're sure something must have gone down with the caretaker just vanishing so suspiciously. And that's the
wow,
sort of vibe that it's got,
I have
really.
this on my stack to read, so I can't wait to read it. And whenever you're ready, you can
Yeah.
read your excerpt.
Yes, this is just from it's from quite early on, really. It's from I think it's chapter 3, and they've just broken into the school. It's only it's the end of the chapter, really, and just sort of kicks things off. Their destination was obviously the science room. Felix couldn't have said why that particular door was bugging him more than any other, but he just knew that it did. The same way dogs know that when storms are coming, or how you sometimes wake up knowing someone you love just left the room after tucking you in. He'd asked his dad once why people got gut feelings. It's because of instinct, his dad had replied. Instinct matters. Think of it like your memory doing you a solid. It's helping you out without bothering you with any of the messy mental paperwork. You see, your gut's been collecting important evidence your whole life. So when it acts, it doesn't just hold long meetings about it. If it tells you something's off, you need to listen. Gut feelings, your internal fire alarm. Trust me on this. Ignore them and you'll wish you hadn't. Felix had never forgotten that. And now, creeping past the year 2 classrooms and the water fountains that smelled of cucumber sandwiches, he wasn't just listening to his gut, he was practically begging it for updates. Because every hair on the back of his neck agreed. Something was wrong waiting round the next corner. Something had happened in the science room first thing this morning, and he needed to find out what it was. Then the door in question appeared ahead of them, dull and grey and thoroughly uninterested in being helpful. Felix had expected it to be locked, and locked it was, tight as a drum and twice as unwelcoming. There'd be no open window to help them in this time. He dropped to one knee, unzipped his rucksack and pulled out a small black packet that could have passed for an unusually stylish glasses case. He unfastened the strap with quick fingers and rolled it on the floor. William squatted beside him. "What are they?" "They're my pick set," Felix said. "Well, technically these are my dad's third best pick set, which I should absolutely return before he notices they've gone and starts booby-trapping his drawers again." Inside the leather roll was 4 glinting picks nestled beside 2 tension wrenches, hook, rake, diamond and half-ball. They looked to William's mind like they belonged in a dentist's nightmare. Felix selected the rake and the longest wrench, eased them into the keyway and began feeling for the pins. Despite William's urgent hopes that they could just get on with it, Felix took his time. This kind of delicate work wasn't about speed, it was about touch, pressure, patience. Locks had personalities, and you had to charm them open. Bullying would just make them angry. "You stole your dad's lockpicks?" No, not at all. That would have been wrong. I simply borrowed them, like you would take out a library book." "Right. Yeah, cool," William said, and then paused. "Sorry, there was actually a more important question I should have asked. Why does your dad have lockpicks?" "Oh, I'm sure yours does too. You should ask to see them. He probably keeps them next to the cricket bats." Then the lock clicked open with a clean, satisfying snap. "Why couldn't you have done that with the padlock on the kitchen door outside?" William Whisper shouted, flapping his arms. "That would have been a lot easier than boosting me through the window like a sack of anxious potatoes." Felix rolled the pick set closed with reverent care and tucked them back into his rucksack. "What can I say? My ways are strange and mysterious." Then he gave the door a gentle push and swung it open, revealing the dark maw of the science room beyond. The air that drifted out smelled of gas, dissection trays, and something else. It was the same strange scent Felix had caught in the corridor outside this room, and then again in the mop water in Mr. Glim's room. It was extremely strong disinfectant, edged with something darker. Burnt wires, maybe, or was it hot ink, like a printer that had melted from the inside out? However, the smell was at best the 3rd or 4th most interesting thing about the room, because the moment the door creaked inward, something else moved. Something at the back of the room. It was the door, the big metal chemical cupboard with the double bolts. Its top bolt was still undone from this morning, but now the bottom one scraped open all by itself, as if it had been waiting for an audience. Then the cupboard door swung wide with a mechanical cough, and the very dead body of Mr. Glim fell out. That's the end of the chapter.
That is, wow, I can't wait to read it, I'll tell you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that definitely. So you said like, okay, so you wrote this for your son, but what
Yes.
kind of, I mean, it's, you know, if that character is based off your son's very cool. And
He likes to think so, I think.
I'm sure he does. So if so what inspired you to like write that kind of story? What was it? I mean, I agree that there's a lot of children's books aren't geared they aren't geared towards boys.
No.
You know, they're geared towards girls. And you know, a lot of the characters, even characters that have boys as main characters, they still kind of, you know, cater to the girls. And this was definitely, this is a boys book. And you know, it's something that I wish I had for my son. He would read these Junie B. Jones books, and he loved them, and they were great books, but they were, you know, whoever wrote them like for girls, but he loved them, so it didn't, I don't care, you know. I think it's but I think to get more boys reading, we need to have books geared towards, you know, excitement and fantasy and things that boys would think of, you know, or you know, because we all know how adventurous sons can be, no matter how old they are. And so there's always that, if they can connect with the characters and say, oh, yeah, that's me. Or, even if it's, reading anybody's book and they feel like that kid could be them. I think that's really important. And I really, I'm very happy that your son inspired you.
I think the important thing, isn't it, is to have things that have got the sort of stakes that make it interesting, but without that sort of grim dark quality that I think has sort of crept into young adult fantasy now, where it seems to be there has to be lots and lots of emotional upset and lots of trauma and huge amounts of devastation caused by the adventure. And I think I remember back to reading The Famous Five, and I always think that was such a fantastic thing to read as a young boy, really, because you've got the sort of the teamwork of the adventure solving, really. And yes, there are adults around, but the adults aren't necessarily necessary for everything to work out okay, because the children will be able to figure it out, but nothing
Yeah,
will ever get out of control. And I think
the
that's
kids,
really important.
yeah, the kids are the heroes of the story.
Yes.
I mean, something simple as, a young knight or a young boy wanting to become a knight, so
Yeah.
he decides to slay the dragon or something.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, and I've read a lot of books, Ben, and some I agree with you that even some that are specifically young adults, the fantasy part can be pretty dark in some
Yeah.
ways. And I think there's ways that it can be lightened up. And, you know, it's like, when you go to the kids daydream, or, they can enter another world that's not a role-playing video game.
Yeah. Yes.
It's not that, it's their imagination. And I think more children need to be encouraged to use their imagination. And if they see, especially like your son, you wrote it for him, and he knows how imaginative that you are, and that the fact that you wrote a story for him,
Yeah.
and now other kids can read it too. I think
Yeah.
that is something that is very special and important.
Yeah, and I think it is, as you say, you need to be able to recognise yourself in the world that you read, don't you? And I think that can certainly, I feel, if you walk in the bookshops now and look at what's on the shelves, I'm not necessarily sure there's an awful lot that represents a 9, 10 year old boy that
Yeah,
just wants to have an adventure, really. And I think it's I can understand why, and I think there has been a movement to try to turn things more so that there's a more of an inclusive feel, so everybody feels that they're represented. But I do think it's a shame when you genuinely struggle to find someone. I mean, he enjoyed Percy Jackson, but Percy Jackson's a much older child, and I think
right. Yeah,
there's a bit of a gap between. I mean, he's 16, and I think that's quite a big gap between the worries of a 16-year-old and the worries
yeah,
of a 10 year
yeah.
old. Really. But yeah, so it's been a lot of fun writing something in a sort of child's world, really, because it does change the rules of your storytelling, really, as to what can
Yeah,
happen and what can't happen, and
exactly.
how things have to resolve, really. And I think that was quite a lot of fun with writing this.
Does he tell you stories?
Mm. Yes, I mean he is a very has a very vibrant imagination. I think is the polite way that we put things. When you're finding out how things have happened, and you're like, really, that's what happened, is it? Oh, definitely, yes. Like, we now have the slightly more unexaggerated version of how that got broken that doesn't involve, the cat
Oh,
doing it in it's
yeah.
yes, I think that ability to live in a sort of steps away from reality is quite a special one, and I think people lose it quite young, don't they, now? And I
Yeah,
think
and very
holding on to that is important.
yeah, I know. My youngest kids, they're twins, they're fraternal twins, and when they were younger, my one son, William, he even if his brother wasn't there and he did something wrong, he would try to first he would say, "Would you be mad if?" And then he would say what he did. And then I'd be like, "Well," he would just look at my face, and if he thought I was going to be mad at him, he goes, "Oh, just kidding." And then a
Yeah,
few minutes later, he'd go, "Mom, Lewis broke this." And I'm like, "Lewis isn't here." He goes, "Oh, yeah." And then it was either like, okay, if I was going to get mad, he was kidding,
yes,
or And it was a very long thing about, oh, it did this, this, and this, and then he would blame his brother for it, whether he was there or not. But yeah, those are those moments that you like a parent, like you might be mad because they broke something, but the fact that they're giving you this elaborate story on how it
Have to be proud.
happened, yeah, it's like, wow, you have this imagination. Now, what am I going to do with it? We have to hone it in a better way, but
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to get mad at them when they're so proud of their story.
No, and I think there's so much, I think, in the world that doesn't want children to sort of exist in that sort of realm anymore. You mentioned video games, really, because they create that whole new world for them, don't they? In a way that certainly we never had when we were younger.
Yeah.
I think that is the biggest difference that I don't think we've ever really wrestled with, have we, as to what sort of changes that's going to cause to the way people are really now, is that
It's
we've had a
all
whole
about
generation
screens,
growing up. Yeah.
Screens, computers, phones, tablets, handheld game
Yeah.
systems. I do, my sons, they're older, they still play games and stuff like that. But I also like that they they still play Minecraft. And
Yes.
that I have found that it that helps spark their imagination. They're building something. And
Yeah.
I could hear them when they're on their headsets and playing, but when they're playing that, and I'm like, well, at least they're still using their imagination, because they'll be like, Mom, look what I built. And they're 26 years old. So, but yeah, we need things that spark their imagination. And, I remember my kids just sitting in the middle of their sandbox, and, they're just making mud pies. Oh, bless you.
Sorry.
It's
I'm in a
okay.
slightly dusty room here that everyone else is in the other part of the house, so I needed somewhere quiet. But this is a very dusty room that I found myself in.
But yeah, my older son Robert, he loved Matchbox cars. So I bought him one of those rugs that had roads,
Yes.
and he would just sit on that for hours and create it, and he loved it. And and when I see toy commercials, some of them are just like, it's like, what is it doing?
Yeah.
But then you find those couple that actually the kids use their
Yeah.
imaginations. People still play with Barbie dolls and
Yes.
GI Joe. And I mean, when I was little, Barbie married GI Joe because Ken was just too pretty. But it sparked imagination and setting scenes and things like that. And when I saw that some of these toy makers are still making those
Yes.
kinds of toys, then that, it kind of, I'm like, thank goodness. And I just hope that more parents realize that their kids need imagination, not just
Lots of
screen.
plastic.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think it's just one of those, and you don't have to be a parent um, to know that children, they're going to grow up and be the next generation. And I mean, generations that we have now, they don't know what certain things are. uh, but it's, all about just, you know, having them be able to express themselves.
Yeah.
My son William, one of my twins, he uh, with special needs. He has autism, and when he was younger, he had bipolar, but he put himself in remission. But he would just get so when he would get angry, he would make sounds,
Yeah.
and I would always tell him it didn't matter if he was swearing or whatever came out of his mouth was just to get him to say words, to yell and scream, but say those words. So that way he would learn that how to express themselves rather than just making,
Yeah.
grr sounds or whatever. And I think that is something that is very important too. Kids need to know that they can go to their parents and that they can express themselves with words. And who knows, maybe your next book, your son can help you write.
He very, very, very keen to. I think he often sits down next to me and has a read of what's there. And he goes, there was one. He'd got a plot that he really wanted included in something that I was writing, and he kept explaining it to me. And I kept on saying, "It's really good, but I don't think it's long." I'm afraid I'll have someone tell that story at some stage, but it'll only be about a page. I don't think I can quite span that out for a whole. Yes, he does like to come and sit and have a bit of a read, and I think that more than anything was when you need to do a story that you go, well, he's obviously so interested in seeing how it happens that
Exactly.
you do need things that he can read before he decides he doesn't want anything to do with me anymore, and
And maybe
that's time
he
will
could
come
write his
soon.
own.
So
He could write his own. I homeschooled my sons when they were in high school.
yeah.
And they just, I had them keep a journal, and give them a very simple subject. And I'm like, write whatever you want about it. It didn't matter if it was one sentence or a whole page, just so it could just make them think about it, and then they would write it in their journal. And it was personal to them, so I was the only one that saw it. But I still have them, actually. I kept them.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
bring them out
we
now and
keep
then.
everything he writes. It's like
Oh,
that's why
yeah.
rooms like this are so full of stuff. It's everything he'd ever written or committed to paper we've got, and
Yeah, I completely understand. They're like, why do you have that? I'm like, because it's mine. You gave it to me.
there's a episode of Bluey that he absolutely loves, and it's the one where they're trying to tidy the house up and trying to throw out some of their things. And but I wrote it. The Bluey says that's exactly like, well, you do not love me anymore. It's like that's exactly how it feels when you're trying to get rid of something. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll hold on to this thing that I think you've written one letter on, but we'll keep it forever. That's fine.
Yes, you wrote it, you drew it, whatever. I mean, I found things when I was going through some of my mother's things and even my father's things that they had kept from what I wrote or what I drew for them or made in ceramics or something like that when there was actually art classes in elementary school. But I'm like, wow, I didn't realize they would keep this. So then that inspired me to keep it. And I'm like, yeah, when my kids go through my stuff, they're gonna see what I kept of theirs. But I really enjoyed you on the show. And
Thank you.
I know you said you wrote other books as well. And if you ever want to come back and talk about them, or if you
Absolutely.
have another children's book that you're gonna promote, I'll definitely have you back. It was great having you on the show.
Oh, thank you.
So thanks for being on the show, and thanks audience for listening. If you wish to be a guest on the show, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast and schedule your pre-recording. Don't forget, if you wish to comment on this show or any show, comments are available, and yes, I will read them. Please follow this podcast on Spotify. I'm Amy Shannon. Be safe, be well, and always be kind. Thank you for watching this video podcast. Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast is a takeoff of Amy's Bookshelf Reviews website, and which does reviews and also author promotions. You can go to amysbookshelfreviews.com for more information. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe, follow, and keep listening. Thank you.